We need to start being aware that sections of our planet are being destroyed, that sections of our natural economy are being destroyed.
Time is running out. You know, in the past we can see that people needed to act on it and they necessarily haven't taken the steps. And now that we've got so much information, I think there's really no excuse not to act on it.
Food prices have escalated 60% in the last 3 years, and energy prices are going up at the same time.
The world that we live in is not always eco-friendly, and you know, if we don't look after it, then who will?
So why is all this happening? They call it climate change.
Scientists have observed changes in the planet itself, the seas, the mountains, the icebergs.
The main way humans are contributing to climate change is really through their lifestyles. We're consuming more materialism, and that's taking up more resources on the earth.
Consumerism has an effect on everybody, adults as well as children. Whether we like it or not, we consume every single day. But we've got to think about how we consume. Is it really necessary? Do we want just an extra pair of shoes because? Or do we need an extra pair of shoes? That's the important message to give to the children, but also to many adults.
Climate change is fed, I think, nowadays into the curriculum in lots of different ways. I mean, I study it predominantly in geography, but also it feeds into economics and French. And I think that this has really helped to give different perspectives and raise awareness.
You know, we don't actually stop and think about what I can do. You know, it's always, what the government, what big corporations. But, you know, I think it's everybody has their own responsibilities.
Where we're feeling it right now most is in our food prices and in the cost of energy and heating our homes.
I feel in a way it's worrying because obviously my generation is going to have to face a lot of the problems potentially and create solutions. But I think most worrying of all that things are being decided now for my future that I'm not necessarily involved in, and I think a lot of young people would really like to get involved in that sort of thing.
The most common causes of climate change are well known, to do with fossil fuels, driving and travelling and heating our homes and things like that. But what we don't realise is how much our food contributes to climate change, and nothing contributes more to climate change than meat.
In my opinion, from the research I've done, the benefits to wider society of veganism and vegetarianism is health. And I know a lot of doctors would tell you different, but I mean, there's a huge meat industry that obviously, if people start to be educated about the realities of the way meat's farmed, the abhorrent conditions in which most of the meat that we consume is kept, and on top of that, the effect that meat does actually have on the human body, a lot of people are going to lose money. So there is an agenda for you to not be educated about the reality of your nutritional needs.
Why is meat such a big contributor to climate change? Well, it starts with the fact that for every 3 people on the planet, there are 2 farmed animals. And all of the feed that has to be grown for those animals takes up 2/3 of the land in agriculture on the planet.
And so the impact to the environment of the meat industry is enormous. In fact, according to a study that I read, the impact to the globe in terms of CO2 emissions of the meat industry is higher than the aviation industry. But no one targets the meat industry.
Not everyone's going to go vegetarian overnight. I haven't. But just becoming conscious of the impact of meat on future food prices sure helps in knowing how to cut back and when.
This house is owned by Octavia Housing, and it's undergoing a full renovation, a retrofit as we call it. We're aiming to make it the first passive house retrofit project in the UK. Now, passive house is a German standard that's been around for around 20 years. It's the gold standard internationally for very, very energy efficient buildings. And what it means essentially is that this building won't need a central heating system. We're putting enough insulation on the walls, we're making it airtight enough and providing very efficient ventilation systems that the heat from having a few people inside the house and from doing your basic cooking and cleaning tasks is enough to heat the house through all but the coldest months of the year. So this is the beating heart of the passive house, and this is the Genvex Combi unit. And what this does, it has several different jobs that it's doing all at the same time. In a passive house, because you make it completely airtight, you also provide active ventilation. And so you have ductwork running throughout the house, which will extract air from each of the wet rooms, they're called, so the bathrooms and the kitchens, and will input fresh air into the warm rooms. So the bedrooms and all the living areas. This single unit here then provides the heating and hot water and ventilation for the whole house. There's no more need for boilers or for radiators. It's a very simple unit, so it shouldn't need servicing, and keeps the whole house going.
Courier Systems are a local company. We've always employed locally. We've tried to do our bit for the local economy and environmentally locally as well. All our staff are involved in these initiatives. They all buy into it here at the company. Hopefully they take some of these ideas on board and use them at home as well. We've worked with the borough on the canal to try and make that a better place for the people locally, you know, and that's seen its results now, and you know, there's a lot more people enjoy that. We looked within Courier Systems at what we could do within our own company for the green agenda, and some of the things were quite obvious that could be done straight away with regards to recycling. We've got recycling bins for various products, whether it's paper, cardboard, plastic, glass. These are all collected by a registered carrier. We also use recycling methods in our workshop as well for oils, brake fluids, pads and so on. They're all collected by a registered waste carrier, and they're recycled, reused or disposed of in the correct manner. And we look at electricity and gas, our usage, where we can cut down, and also the suppliers that we use to ensure that they're using, you know, the same initiatives that we are.
Muslims make up nearly a fifth of the world's population, so they have a massive impact on the world. Our work is really to reclaim, remind the Muslims of their responsibility. The Quran addresses the whole of humankind to actually, as guardians of the earth, not just Muslims. So our responsibility is to remind Muslims we are guardians of the earth as well as human beings.
You know, as a young Muslim, we have a duty and a responsibility to look after it. Islam preaches and it teaches a lot of what the message is to look after the earth.
The Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea is really fortunate in the number of parks and green spaces it's got. And I'm in one of the most beautiful of them all right now, which is Holland Park.
I think the green spaces in the area are wicked. You know, I've been here all my life, and you know, it's meant a lot to have somewhere to just go around, kick ball. I remember when I was young, just, you know, a little. You know what? Let me just ask my little brother, because obviously he's in there more than I am. Sam, come. Like, what do you think? What's your favorite green space?
Avondale Park.
Avondale. Okay. What do you like about that?
It has lots of stuff to play on.
We need to participate in the decisions that are made, because we have as much ownership over this planet, or as much right to live on this planet, because I don't believe we own the planet, as any other human beings. And if we don't start to educate ourselves, green spaces in London, but green spaces throughout the world won't be preserved. And of course, throughout the world, it will be the poorest people that suffer the most.
These parks can play an important part in us becoming a part of the solution, because it's when we're in touch with nature that it's easiest for us to connect with ourselves inside. And once we are connected with ourselves, caring for nature and the planet comes much more easily. We cannot care until we are aware.
Some of the ways we can actually tackle climate change involve walking more.
There are loads of things we can all do to help the environment and save on our pockets at the same time. We can insulate our homes. We can block off the drafts to stop the warmth escaping.
Recycling bags have been, I think, very successful. Residents, children, adults all understand how to use them, where to put them.
We can cycle, we can drive less.
With regards to the Muslim community, we're part of the wider society, but there's certain things in our community which we can do. Islam is a water-intensive religion, so we can start thinking about how the Prophet Muhammad, if he was alive now, would he use the amount of water when making ablution? In fact, he actually used a cupful, a handful of water, that's just to make ablution. So sometimes when you go to the mosque and you look at taps running endlessly, and you just remind yourself, is this the spirit of Islam?
Something that I think would be really great is that I'm quite into clothing and stuff like that, and I think that it'd be really great if older people could teach, not necessarily older, but people with more experience could teach young people how to fix and mend clothes and make new clothes out of older clothes, because We throw away so much these days, and I think that recycling stuff and second-hand stuff is really coming in, and we should really run with that.
If the borough were to make more steps towards a greener borough, I think there should be a tax or a total ban on big cars. Not only do they take up a lot of space, they pollute and they are dangerous.
All the things you can come up with like this that you can do will all contribute towards helping the environment and reduce the effects of climate change.
I think it's really important that we act now because we've got such a fantastic area and it's our borough and it's our future.